Hey resellers, welcome back to Lava City Threads. I'm Alveraz. I'm a full-time clothing and shoes reseller. Today we're going to go over a lot of what's sold over the last week. I'm going to show you guys some brands, some vintage items, shoes, men's and women's clothing. So maybe you'll have some ideas next time you're outsourcing. Let's go ahead and get started with this 2 pair of Sam Edelman calf fur sandals. These are both size 8. I usually do pretty well with Sam Edelman. I'll come in anywhere from $20 to $40 depending on the piece. These, of course, as summer wore on, I wanted to get rid of these pretty quickly. So listed them for $33.27 and we took an offer for $29.94. It only took 32 days to sell these, so that's not bad. And just so that way you know, my cost of goods is $2 for all the items we're about to go through, my average cost of goods anyway. Sometimes that'll get up to about $5, but most of these are going to be about $2. The bottoms had a little bit of scuffing and a little bit of wear, and just make sure you're notating that in your listing. This was a really fun one. This is a vintage Helly Hansen rain suit, but this is one of the more heavy-duty commercial fishing gear ones. Picked this up at a estate sale. And it was really cool because once I grabbed them, I didn't recognize that it was Helly Hansen at first. But then, you know, I caught the straps and caught the HH. And then I was able to look them up. Here's the tag. And when I found out that it was made in Portugal, and I looked up this particular tag here, discovered it was vintage, and then just by the kind of substantial nature to them and how heavy they were and thick, I knew I had something different than just a rain suit. So when I was researching it online on eBay and on Poshmark too, it wasn't finding many of them. There was only a few. And so I might have listed this a little bit under fair market value, I think. Might have gotten taken for this. In fact, it sold pretty quick. It sold in 3 days. Listed it for $85.97 and I did get asking for it. But what also was kind of cool about this was I sold it on Etsy. And I sold it to a buyer in Norway. And this Norway buyer paid $100 shipping for this, you guys. So that's pretty interesting. I like Etsy I get rid of a lot of vintage stuff on Etsy, and I happen to get rid of it to a lot of different countries on Etsy too. I don't know if you guys have the same experience. Here's my ugly thumb fingernail. So make sure you're looking out for Helly Hansen, both in their newer models and their older vintage stuff. The newer stuff, you're looking for a lot of the snow and ski suits and like jackets and stuff like that. A lot of outerwear, Helly Hansen. I even do pretty well with Helly Hansen base layers, if I remember right. So make sure you're looking out for that. Next up, we've just got some Converse Chuck Taylors. And these are pretty bread and butter for me now. Back in the day, a couple years ago, I wasn't trusting Converse all that much, but they seem to just be picking up. I don't know, they ebb and flow, but right now we're on a flow. So Converse Chuck Taylors All-Star, these are lift high. These are the tiny tattoos, meaning they have a little bit of extra something, like a couple hits on them. Yeah, right here. You'll see the bird here and a little bit of this kind of extra stitching. So I think that's what allowed me to increase the price just a little bit. Listed it for $37. We sold it for $37, and we sold it on Poshmark, and it sold in 40 days. So not a bad pickup there. Okay, next up we have a pretty cool one. This is a vintage Columbia reversible vest, and it had a teal on one side and kind of a nylon geometric fleece oh no, I'm sorry. The teal part was nylon. On the other side was the geometrical fleece pattern. And this was just pickup on, I picked this up actually at a thrift store, and I don't do much thrift store shopping unless I have a deal going on with the thrift store. And this particular one, I do have a deal going on with the thrift store, which I'm able to get involved with their pipeline during their process, either items coming in, items going out, where I get a little bit of time to make a deal with them as long as I buy in bulk. So this was one of those deals. Vintage Columbia reversible vest, listed it for $44.07 and sold it for $44.07, and it only took 38 days. Here's the tag here. This one was made in Taiwan. Don't always think it has to be made in USA, guys, for vintage, right? I don't know, somebody said that on another video a while ago, that like that's what you're looking for is the USA. It's not always USA. It could be Taiwan. You could find things like Hong Kong. You know what? The kind of only switch you'll see there is when it says made in China, right? That's usually more of an indicator that it's modern and not vintage. But even that's not always the case, right? Because you remember, we're on a moving scale of 20 years, right? So right now it's 2006 and older is considered vintage. So just be careful with your labels these days because you're looking at that transition now. And so you just have to be careful with some of the brands that you're picking up. But anyway, this is a good tag you're looking for here on Columbia. I don't always pick up Columbia. You guys shouldn't really be either. It's up to you and your business model. But even at $2 cost of goods, I have to be very careful with Columbia because it doesn't sell that well, unless you get more of the substantial pieces, the bigger jackets, the interchangeable ones, and just some of the stronger pieces, which you'll know it when you see it, but I try to stay away from some of the lighter kind of basic Columbia stuff. Okay. Next up, we have a pretty cool one. This is a rare 1991 Dr. Martens boots. Red vintage Union Jack. Oh, good. I did put oxblood in there. God, I love that color of oxblood in Docs. I'm an 80s and 90s kid, and I grew up in this kind of punk rock scene down in San Diego, California, and Docs were everywhere, late 70s, or early 80s. I guess I probably didn't start messing around with that stuff till I was about 11 or 12 years old. But hey, so that was kind of mid 80s, and that's when Doc Martens were really picking up in my space where I was, and Oxbloods were just the way to go, and it was so cool. It was a lot of fun back then. But anyway, these are kind of an interesting pair because they have the Union Jack hit on them right here, which just kind of made them rare. You got to look them up, look up the codes on them, and I listed this for 95. No, actually, you know what? I had listed this for I think 110, but somebody emailed me and if you beg long enough with me, I'm gonna hook you up, and so they just kept asking, like, please, I've always wanted them and all that stuff. I'm a sucker. Anyway, dropped it down to $95, and we sold these. I think I did hold on for a while though. These sold in 102 days. So usually I'm trying to get things sold under 90 days. I do have a 6-month limit though. I try to turn my entire inventory over in 6 months, and then at that point I have a liquidation process. I do plan on showing a video in the next few weeks. I'm hoping to get to it where I kind of go through the entire process of my inventory, where I show you how I liquidate, because I just want to make sure that all of my items, 100% of my items, I do at minimum after that 6-month and the liquidation process I go through, I get back at least the cost of goods and some profit. And that profit needs to be, I reduce it a little bit. It's a small margin, but it's enough to get back the time I spent on that item. Okay, and so you always have to consider your expenses and so forth. And by the way, on the first of every month, I've been doing a full breakdown of my finances, my store's finances, and my revenue, my profits, what I make every month. And right now I'm on a heavy growth pattern through January in order to hit my 6 figures. And what I'm doing, my business model is, my challenge is to increase my profits by 9.25% month over month. So on the first of the month, like the first Monday of every month, I'm going to show you a video of all my finances, everything. Like, I'm going to be full transparency and show you all the expenses that I think a lot of resellers don't take into consideration in their businesses, and that's why they're usually wondering, where's all that money I've been making? Because there's a lot of expenses that go into this business, as most of you guys know, but a lot of you aren't accounting for it. I do. I'm going to show you how I do it. Maybe that'll help you. So please subscribe if you haven't already. And by the way, all these items too, you'll notice I'm selling them on different platforms. That's because I use a cross lister called Nifty. So this is just a good time to mention it for you. If you have a couple hundred items in your store or more, you might want to consider cross listing. It's been a total joy, and it's really helped my business over the last couple of years. And they keep improving their model over there. And now that they're integrating AI, I'm able to leverage that in some of my titles and pricing and some other ways that are helping me improve my system. So I'm able to list that 30 or 40 a day now because I'm able to move faster through Nifty. There's a link below if you want to check it out. I think there's a little free offer that comes with it. I don't know if it's 7 days, 15 days or something, but use the link down below if you want to check that out. It's a pretty cool system. Moving on to the next item. Here's a vintage Ashley jacket, women XL, tan. It's a faux suede. It's a shearling. Oh, and I thought I was really clever. I used Penny Lane. I didn't really know that that's what they were called, and that it came from that almost famous movie. I literally, as I was listing this, again, over the last year, I've been getting into women's clothing, and I don't know why I didn't know this before. But as I was listing this, I'm going, this reminds me of that movie. That girl wore this all the time in that movie, these types of jackets in that movie. And so I looked it up and discovered, oh, Penny Lane, and I was looking up her name. What's her name? Kate Hudson. And anyway, I added Penny Lane to the title. And here's the tag you're looking for, Ashley by 26 International. And I wanted to get the inside of this one because it, was really furry and cozy looking. Also, just a heads up, this is just another indicator that we're entering that kind of transition time where people are starting to buy for fall and winter. So, you can start listing your lighter jackets right now, maybe even some of your heavier ones. I jumped the gun a little bit, to be honest with you, and over the last couple of weeks, I have, if you've seen my Instagram, also linked below, it's just loaded with winter jackets. So I might have pushed a little bit too hard, but that's because my mountain of fall and winter that I collect over the summer was getting just overwhelming out in my space, so I wasn't even able to move, so I just had to push them out. I tried to wait as long as I could. I'd like to start in early August with some of the lighter jackets and the not Pendletons, flannels and so forth, and then just kind of build my way up. And like right now, I still have a lot of snowsuits, ski wear, that kind of thing, which I'll start getting to in October. But anyway, some of the jackets are starting to move, so that's a good sign. Listed this for $50 and it sold for $47, and it only took 3 days. So not a bad one right there. And I blame my cool keyword of Penny Lane. I don't know. Basically some bread and butter. These are more carpenter pants if I'm seeing that right. So I'm really surprised I didn't put that in the title. Doesn't matter. Listed them for $33 and they sold for $33 for asking, and it only took 17 days. So if you're finding Carhartt out there, make sure you're looking them up because not all Carhartt is created equal, but this one, really strong fabric, really good condition. Next up, 2 pair of Quaker Factory jeans, women 18W. This is a lot of 2 jeans here. Halloween, you've got the spider web on one, and then you've got candy corn, which is embroidered up the side of another. Here's the tags here that you're looking for. Quaker Factory is a very interesting pickup for me because I think a lot of resellers pass up on it, but it does pretty well for me. I like the larger size of Quaker Factory, vintage especially, but it's got a lot of that, not old money, but more like cruise wear, right? Like grandma core cruise wear stuff. That's usually what it is. That's usually the stuff I pick up and it happens to do okay. I'm usually able to get rid of it under my 6-month mark. But these here I held on for a little bit. I picked them up a few months ago, early summer, and knew they'd be a hit in Halloween because the Halloween buyers, if you don't know it already, if you're entering a season where you start putting up Halloween stuff, they're rabid. I put it out there and it goes pretty fast, especially if I start, and I'll do it a little bit early right now, even in August. So mid-August, start putting up your Halloween stuff and it should go. These were listed for $55 and they sold for $55 and it only took 8 days. So not a bad one there. Keep an eye out for Quaker Factory, but not all Quaker Factory. Make sure you guys are looking it up for sure because I have had some that have sat forever. Next up, you have an Any Limited Windbreaker. Not a brand I really pick up all that much, but this one was in pretty good condition. It had a really nice camo print on it and just kind of an interesting feel and look to it. So there's something about it I just thought was kind of cool. And it was a nice large size, extra large. Picked it up. Windbreakers have that really nice kind of transitional selling period as you're leaving summer. People start looking into jackets, but they don't want anything heavy. But the wind is starting to pick up and so forth, obviously, and the light rains. So they pick up these windbreakers, and Any Limited, not a bad deal there. $29, and it sold in 40 days for asking for $29. So not bad there. Keep an eye out for that. Next up, a no-brainer. This is a vintage Nike Yankees hoodie. Men's XL, navy blue. And this is a center swoosh too, so that's always something you're looking for, meaning you're looking for that center Nike swoosh on the piece. And it was Yankees embroidered. This had a real substantial, heavy, thick feeling to it, as a lot of vintage does. And, don't get worried about like the fading on these kind of vintage pieces, because a lot of people are actually looking for that. So if it's a little bit beat up, don't stress it, still pick it up. Here's the old Nike tag you're looking for here. I think I held out on this one a little bit. $46.97, listed it for, and it sold for $38 on an offer, and it took 97 days. I had a lot of engagement at first, I remember, with this one, and then I wasn't going to wait much longer as we get further and further into baseball season. So you want to get that going, especially before you start getting into the playoffs. On good teams, and historically, well, it doesn't matter. If Yankees are sucking during the year, they're still a really good seller because they're just one of the more popular teams, like the Dodgers, Yankees. So some of the bigger teams, just go ahead and look up whatever piece you've got there. Spitfire, okay, this is an old skate company. Spitfire wheels, cargo pants, kind of a unique find. Frankly, I never find this stuff out there. Or I don't find Spitfire cargo pants out there. I do find skate cargo pants out there, but I haven't found this out there. Let me know if you have in the comments, actually. I'm really curious about this because I have been looking for more of these because they do pretty well. These were listed for $38.97. And they sold in 20 days for $38.97 for asking. So here's the tag you're looking for here. It's got this kind of little flamey guy on it, flamey face guy. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before in pants, but in pants I do like to get the waist with a ruler in an image, make sure I'm getting the rise. And I try to get the inseam, of course. The inseam and the waist are probably the most important. And then the leg opening. And this will help you avoid returns, obviously. But also, sorry, I got a really cool blue jay out my window. I got to check them out. You'll also avoid returns, but you will also avoid questions. Everybody loves to know these particular... It's going to be that one pair of pants that you don't get the inseam that somebody's going to say, what's the inseam? So make sure you're getting that, and then I like to get the front and the back, and then the tag, of course. These actually aren't very great pictures as an example, but it is what it is. $38.97. Next up, nice pair of Corso Como riding boots, women. I'm in Central Oregon. We have a lot of equestrian stuff that goes down up here, so I just happened to pick up a lot of equestrian riding boots, cowboy boots, these kinds of more outdoor boots. Though, frankly, these are probably a little bit more nighttime, maybe a evening look to them. I don't know. But they came up as equestrian. Corso Como, listed them for $31, and we got $31 for them, and it sold in 48 days. So make sure you're looking for that brand. Did I actually get a, there you go. This one was actually on the bottom. It was kind of cool because it had this little gem stuffed into the bottom of it. But anyway, size 7, not a terrible size. I like to get 7 and over if I can. Next up, I'm not going to say bread and butter, but Ms. Moo's, I look them up first. If they're in really good condition, Ms. Moo's, I don't have to do much with them. I don't feel like I have to, like I said earlier, I don't really clean shoes. I don't really at all. I will wash them. I'll throw like a load into the washer and do that. But with Ms. Moo's, if they're a mess, I'm just not going to pick them up in the first place. Again, it depends on your cost of goods, what you can do, but Ms. Moo's doesn't move that much or that fast or for a ton of money, but they do go. And these one went for $35, and yeah, they sold for asking for $35, and it took 77 days here. This was kind of an interesting one. I didn't really know what I had here. And I had 2 vests, and the same guy bought both vests, and I think they're both in this what sold here, but this is the second one that he bought. This did turn out to be a lining to a different type of jacket, which I figured as much because all of the buttons on the inside were female here. So anyway, there's the tag you're looking for, down under saddle supply, size B. I don't know, some kind of Australian sizing thing, whatever. But anyway, so I just kind of listed what I saw and went with it. And it did say vest liner when I was looking it up, so I just kind of went with the vest liner. But to what, I didn't know. And what was kind of cool about this sale here, though, was a guy wrote me, and he's like, dude, I've been looking for these forever. Like this particular size, this particular type, because he had a large duster. That's what it was. He owned a duster, like some kind of outdoors Australian duster. That was probably the same brand, obviously. So it was Saddle Supply Company. duster, and he needed inserts for it, and I had 2 of them. So he bought the first one. He wasn't so sure about this one until I kind of sent him some extra information on it or whatever, and he's like, dude, I'm just gonna pull the trigger on it. I don't even want to keep looking. We're good. And so he bought both of them off me, and these ones were listed for this one was listed for $43.97, and it sold for $40. Gave it to him on an offer, and it sold in 2 days. So I don't know if I really got sniped there, but you know, it's kind of weird with vintage. You have to be careful because, listen, this guy was looking for this particular one in this particular size, and if I would have missed out on him, it could have sat around forever. I really don't know. But there was enough demand that I did go ahead and pick them up. And again, I picked these both up for $2 each. Next up, we have this flax button-up blouse, women, metallic silver, kind of a sparkle feel look to it. A shimmer on it. I'll show you that here in a second. And it was linen. And I don't know if you guys sell much flax, but the flax pieces that I've picked up usually sell pretty well, pretty quickly. And they're almost always linen. I'm not even going to say almost. I think all the pieces I picked up in flax have been linen. Let me know in the comments below if you've picked up flax before and if it was in a different type of fabric than linen. I sold a flax jacket. If you remember, it was on a video several weeks back that I made. A what sold video, and it was to a guy in Japan, and I think I sold it for around $100. It was a really cool lagan look. It had chore pockets, and it was kind of a linen shacket, right? Sort of a mix between a shirt and a jacket. Sold it to a guy in Japan, and he paid like $80 or something for shipping. I don't remember, but I think I sold it for around $100. So can you really sit here? There's a tag. You're looking for it. I don't think you can miss it. I think all the ones that I've sold so far they're pretty simple. Just say flax right on them. There's the linen tag in my ugly thumb. There is some measurements. I'm trying to get the sparkle there. You can kind of see the sparkle there in that. Just had kind of a weird texture to it, but I pick up flax. If you see flax, make sure you look it up and let me know if you're picking it up in a different fabric. Listed that for $29, by the way, and it sold for $29. So I got asking for that flax piece and sold it in 66 days. Here's a vintage Boris Japanese metal band. Anyway, make sure you guys are looking for these kinds of styles. It has this kind of like messy where you can kind of barely tell what it says. Just look those up. I looked up Boris and it was a Japanese band, and even better, it turned out to be one of their older model shirts, so I was able to get a pretty good premium for it. Listed it for $42.97 or $42.27. I got asking for it, and it sold in 44 days. Next up, if you guys remember last week's What Sold video, I had gotten lucky at a yard sale where she was the person who owned the house, was selling this like tons of different jackets, a lot of Disney jackets. This one was included here, and she gave me the entire mountain of clothes for $10 just because she wanted to get rid of this stuff. And I ended up getting all these like really cool vintage jackets, and I sold one last week. I don't know, it was like a Disney Winnie the Pooh one. You guys saw it in the video. I don't remember what I sold it for, like 60 or 80 bucks or something. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, this was one of them. G3 jacket, women's small, San Francisco Super Bowl champions varsity jacket. Can't beat the timing, right? We're about to get into football season here. Next up, here's that other one. Here's that other vest by Down Under Saddle Supply. This is the other one. He actually bought this one first, and this is kind of what got him excited when he found the other one by me as well, which he bought like a few days later after I was able to handle some of his skepticism on what he was picking up. But again, you'll see that it has all these kind of female buttons in there. I don't know. I was really confused about this whole thing because I thought they were both jackets, and I picked them up together. This is what it was. I also picked both those liners up together, and I wasn't going to buy them at first because they were together, but I'm like, they don't fit together. Like, this doesn't work. What's going on? Like, I thought this was the liner to the Sherpa one I showed you just a few minutes ago, but you know, then I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna take it. I got them for a couple bucks each, didn't matter. It was styled in Australia, made in India, so I knew there was something probably cool about this. They had a really nice feel to them. Turns out they were two different types that you can put into one jacket. Anyway, sold that one as well to him, listed it for $38.97. and took an offer from him for 33 bucks. And he bought this one on the same day, so it didn't even last a day in my store. Next up, a vintage Burberry London dress shirt. Burberry, I mean, what can you say? If you know, you know. Always looking up Burberry when you find it, especially if you can find older tags like this. I want to say I sat on this one a while. I'll tell you here in a second, but this one had that kind of gingham check thing going on. Gingham check, French cuffs. Let's take a look here. Yeah, and they had kind of a cool little rope in the cuffs there. So vintage Burberry London dress shirt, blue gingham check, French cuff. Listed it for $52.97. This sold over on Etsy, and it sold for $52.97, and we sold it in 28 days. So always looking out for Burberry. This one, obviously, super dope. Old school, vintage, Kangol hat. Brings back some memories. Some 80s, early 90s memories. I immediately jumped to LL Cool J. What do you guys go to when you see this? And I even took it a step further and threw down with the leveraging AI to make this kind of cool background for it. Anyway, I listed it for 40. Actually, I think I listed it for higher than that and reduced this over a couple months. I do 10% discounts every month on my items through that 6-month process. I reduce my items, excuse me, by 10% a month until I hit that 6-month spot wherein I begin my liquidation process. So here we go. Kangol, it's made in Great Britain. Casual, it's a bucket hat. Black 80s. And this had that stronger texture to it before. I don't know if you've come across Kangol before, but some of them are not as good as others. Even the old ones, the vintage ones. You'll have some vintage ones that I think they reproduced a ton of that don't feel as good as this one. And we listed this one for 40 bucks, and actually this one sold in a bundle. So this one sold, this is a cool guy. He bought this Kangol hat and this vintage Harley Davidson shirt, which I'll show you here in a second. He bought this hat for 34 bucks, and he paid for the Harley Davidson shirt for 57 bucks. So I took, obviously I took a discount here, and they sold in about 90 days together in a bundle. So make sure you're looking out for old vintage Kangol hat. Vintage 80s, 70s hats anyways, I'll always take an extra look at. I don't sell many hats because they just take forever to sell, but if they're really cool, I'm giving them an extra look. Here's that rare 1995 vintage Harley Davidson shirt that was also sold in the same bundle. Just had a really strong print here, and it was really bright too. Had nice colors to it. XL. And don't mind this stuff. You'll see this on a lot of different Harley shirts with different shops on them. But a lot of these collectors of these older Harley Davidson shirts, they like that. They like to collect all the different shops from around the country. I actually asked this of a guy who was selling a ton of Harley stuff to me months ago. And he was a Harley Davidson bike rider. So I'm like, dude, what's the deal with all these shops? Are you interested in all the shops, or do you guys just like have one shop in one town and that's all the Harley stuff you want? And they don't, because they're on the road all the time. Duh. They're always traveling around, so they like to kind of collect from around the country. And on a lot of the graphics, you will find the print here. This is what you're looking for. We'll show you what year it was made. And this was a single stitch. And strangely enough, I did not write single stitch in the title, and it still went. So just make sure you're looking it up. This one was listed for 68 bucks, and he took it for 57. Again, I made him a deal on that. Here's a pair of Nike women's Nike Court Air Zoom Vapors. These are Pro 3s. Women's size 8, white. They had the Rush Pink. I leverage AI with Nike because it's usually pretty good. ChatGPT is really, who's really good at it is Gemini. If you don't use Gemini, I would use Gemini when you're looking up certain brands, because it's hit or miss, right, with AI and most things. But with branding, it's getting smarter. As more and more thousands of these inquiries come in every day, it's just getting stronger at recognizing what you have. And so, like with Nike, you just plop in this information here into Gemini, and it'll quickly tell you exactly what you got. Which you can do anyway. Obviously, you've got the QR code here, and you can just pop in the 6-digit code up here, and you'll find out what it is. But I like to streamline my system. So I plop this in just super fast in AI and it spits me out exactly what it is. So I like to get that into the title, and Nikes for me are bread and butter, and that's throughout all of their apparel. I pick up a ton of Nike, men, women's, all kinds of different styles. I kind of avoid a lot of their plain stuff. Like I'll pick up Nike polos if it's like a Tiger Woods or it's got some kind of special pattern on it, but like I won't pick up like just a boring Nike TEE or the Nike regular polos I usually avoid. But again, it depends what fits your business model, right? These were listed for $60 and we sold them for $47 on an offer over on Depop. And I don't mind taking kind of deeper discounts over on Depop. Because their fees are remarkable. They're awesome. Sold these in 23 days. Make sure you guys are always looking out. Here's a vintage Sir Jack jacket. Men's 44. I do okay with Sir Jack, and I get it probably once a quarter where I come across this vintage old Sir Jack, and it was around for decades. I don't know if it might even still be around. I don't know, but the ones I find are always some old ass ones from anywhere from, I want to say like the 60s through 80s. This one had a real 80s vibe to it, you know, that old members only look, but it was actually 1970s it turned out to be, and it was a 44, great size, Harrington bomber, plaid lined. So I think I popped it open so you can see like the plaid. And then, let me see if I can find you a tag here. Ugh, that thumb. Okay, here's the tag here, but you'll find, like I have another Sir Jack listed right now, and I think it's a really big overcoat for a suit, and I think it's from the 60s, and it has just a big square, and it says Sir Jack on it, but this is what you're looking for there. Listed this for $47, sold for $43 on a deal over on Etsy, and it sold in 82 days, so under 90 days, and I do remember that too about Sir Jack, is it does take a little while to sell, but hold on to that price. Don't do any deep discounts until you give it a little bit of chance to simmer. That's going to do it for this week. Make sure you're sticking around for next week, though, if you haven't already, subscribe and like, because next week I'm going to go over a ton of financials with you guys again and hopefully give you guys some tips on how you can create a stronger business model. If you want to see something different besides just these what sold videos and then my end of month financial video, let me know. What else are you looking for? What do you want to know about me? What do you want to know about how I run my stores, my business model? Anything you want to know, let me know in the comments so that way I can try to get more videos done for you guys that are a little bit outside of the box or that you might find a little bit educational. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao for now.